All right. Hello, everyone. This is Brother Brian from Three-Headed Monster. Today, we're going to be talking about education, about our current school system. So, I have two, you know, interesting ladies, two smart, beautiful ladies that's going to be on today. Um, Brother Tut and Brother Jerome will be on a little bit later. So, today we have Miss Amber. She come back for another round with us. Um, and then we got Queen Zola that's going to be on today. Um, so let me go ahead and get this disclaimer. Whatever we're talking about today is just our opinions. What we think it is. So don't take our word for granted. Go find out for yourself. You have to do your own research. So, alrighty. So, today, I guess I'm gonna introduce yourself, Miss Turner, Miss Amber Turner. How you doing? Just
I'm
tell.
good, Brian. How are you? Thanks for having me again. But I guess to reintroduce,
Wait a minute. Your audio went out, or is it just me?
No, I
Your
can
your audio went out. Uh,
hear me? Hello.
yes. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
we got you back
Is
now.
that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. My internet isn't that great, probably due to the storm, so I apologize. But again, my name's Amber Turner. I live in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. Mom of four, wife to one. So I have uh, a, a interesting perspective as it pertains to education. I have children in various school situations, so I'm looking forward to the conversation tonight.
All right. And today, I knew first time. Hopefully, we can get her on many more times. Miss Queen Zola, how you doing?
see. I'm feeling good. I'm excited to be on here. I've been in the school district for like the past 6 years, so I'm excited to talk about the topic and just kind of just with everything going on and I don't know. Let's just see where it goes. I'm gonna be very outspoken. I'm unemployed right now, so I could be that way. I don't gotta be like, oh, I gotta go back to school in September, so I could just speak how I feel about things. So I'm excited. Thank you.
Okay. 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 So, as we see this current situation that we have in schooling and this pandemic that's going on, how do you feel about your kids going back to school as of now? Do you feel like it's safe? Do you feel like there's need to be more security measures going on or health measures needed going on? Or who wants to answer that first and just break down how you feel about this?
I'll let Miss Zola go first. She's the school teacher, so I'm interested to hear her perspective.
So well, I think Philadelphia School District is 100% online for right now. So I mean, I definitely feel like if it's not safe to do certain things, I do feel like there's still something going on. The children should not be in the school altogether right now because of the risk of COVID or whatever is going on with that. But I also feel like they've just been thrown into like a pool of sharks, with this whole homeschool. And it's already been really hard for children within a district to learn in person, so trying to get the parents on board and try to help the children learn from online, I think that's going to be really complicated. I don't think they gave enough resources out to households to help, make it online an easy thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's the best decision if we don't know what's going on and people still have, their fears and things like that. And, children, they're not going to keep a mask on. They're going to be joking, coughing on each other. Like, children are children. So I don't think they will understand how to social distance in the classroom. Most adults don't understand how to social distance. So yeah, I think, them not being in the school right now, is a good thing, but I think it's going to be very complicated for them to learn, from home.
Okay. Okay.
So I guess I go back and forth with mixed feelings because I have four kids in various circumstances. So I actually have two going back and two doing homeschool. or distance learning, I guess I should say. I personally think that they could have come up with a better plan. Like, I think they could have utilized the time a little bit more wisely to come up with a more concrete plan, because originally a lot of school districts had a plan in place to go back, and then a ripple effect happened. So I guess I have some questions, right? Um, I I think, unfortunately, with this, like, and I understand the health precautions, and we have to definitely be mindful of that. Um, but a part of me feels like there's a little bit more damage being done with the kids at home, out of school, than in school. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that for the school districts that have closed, the community is coming together to provide alternative programming for those kids to be in some type of facility to be able to participate in distance learning with certified teachers if you can afford to be there.
Oh, that's a key word.
So like your local YMCA's, your daycare centers, maybe some of your performing arts centers, there's going to be a cost associated with it for the most part. So my fear is that, the parents that can't afford that or don't have access to that, those children are going to be left behind in a situation that isn't probably the best learning environment for them. So we've created now a new challenge. That's
Yeah, that,
my thoughts.
yeah, I agree with you because I think we creating a monster that we creating another monster with this whole pandemic, and
Hmm.
some kids will be forced to school. Some kids who are not, who financially can do it, don't really have to because it actually hits the low income. The low income who parents have to be at work, who cannot be at home with their kids. I mean, depends on the age, especially if they're younger.
Yeah.
You it's a big stress
Hmm.
because now is your job flexible to helping you out when it comes to this? Is it two parents in the house? One parent can work. I'm blessed that I actually have my wife can work from home, but she had to adjust just so she can work at home because both of my boys will be working at home. But actually, at the same time, we can't depend on the school to teach our kids the truth about everything. We still have to do our part. And I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of us put everything on school. Oh, my kid's not going to school. How can I do this? How can I do that? And we turn it into a daycare to a certain extent. Instead of you still have to do your part as a parent to teach your kids the right or wrongs or what they need to learn. So, do I want my boys to be in school? Yes and no, because they lose their social skills because that's all they got is just okay. I'm sorry, I just got a text. Jerome about to come on in a few minutes, but what happens is they lose that unless they in the neighborhood and they around a bunch of kids. Some kids need to get away from their home to feel relieved or
Hmm.
be able to be their self because they might not have a positive home. So sometimes that school is their outlet. And that now we're having that dynamic of it's going to be a lot of damaged kids out of this. Not only because of the fear. This fear really is, I mean, yeah, this fear itself is a lot of damage. This pandemic and the information that's pushing out because they constantly forcing information in your face, and it's becoming a political thing too. So I just don't like it because the vaccine is going to get pushed in the midst of this too. That your kid can't go to school unless they have the vaccine, and I'm not really ready for that right now. So my opinions about it is very up and down.
I think
So
a lot of parents are like that.
so it's scary. But do the teachers feel safe? Because not only kids' bodies can resist a lot more than as you get up, but you having a teacher that's going to be teaching 20 to 30 different kids at any given time. And you having that coming at one because everybody's listening to you in a congested environment. You see what I'm saying? So the infection rate is it's gonna get crazy. Not saying that anybody's gonna die, which I hope and I pray that nobody does, but it's causing it's dangerous. So that's just my opinion on that. But go ahead, Zola.
Yeah, no, I just feel like it's really difficult. That's why I'm not working right now. Like to have a mask on all day long, to keep to work with children. Like I work with kindergartens, I work with younger children. So it's just it's a lot going on with that. The health risk of having to be like that all day long. Like me personally, I run into the store. I can't wait to come out to take the mask off because it just doesn't feel comfortable. I don't like how it even just like with my face, like even this year was like raising up a little bit from wearing the mask all the time. So just like certain things I'm just like not comfortable with. But there is a great concern. You said a few things I wanted to touch on. There's a great concern with children who are in homes. I'm wondering how they are monitoring certain children from risk groups, like from who have cases with abuse, with things like that, or
Mm-hmm.
getting their meals every day. Some children only eat at school, so that's a concern with that. Also, children who need extra help, like who have the one-on-ones or who have the workers who have the disabilities. It's like how are they learning from home? Like what does that look like for them? And, like you said, it was a big ripple effect when the school districts decided to go 100% online. And I feel like they didn't spend a summer preparing for online teaching. It kind of just was like, boom, we're online now. So, I mean, just from the things you mentioned, those are really a concern. But, just like you said, I don't think we need to depend on the schools to educate our children. So maybe we are going to get a rise of independent learning. The thing I did like about when I put my girls in homeschool, it was the fact that I could control what they were learning more. Like we got to pick the subjects or what they wanted to learn, versus them going to school and doing this project on Christopher Columbus, who's irrelevant to me, So it was just like, I think that's a big thing too, to kind of like, maybe we'll have some of that come from out of that. But even with the shots, even with homeschool, they require shot records. So I'm still wondering, how people will get out eventually, when this whole vaccine thing gets pushed on everybody. I'm wondering, how that's going to be.
Ms. Amber.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of said my piece. But and I guess I'll just kind of reiterate my concern with everything is just the displacement. And I think Zola, you touched on it. What about the kids that are behind or have IEPs, etc. One solution that, and this is just kind of off the top, but why not think about, and we've had, now I know you're in Philadelphia school district and we're a little bit different out here where we're at, Zola, but changing the classroom size, and I know budgets are challenging right now, but I think that would have been one major solution if we could have taken the ratio down. And that's what a lot of the schools that are seems like that I'm aware of that are opening up, their classroom sizes are very, very small. And the same thing with like the learning centers that are opening up in this area. The 2-to-9 ratio is what they're looking at, which I think would have been a game changer as far as being able to go back into those settings. But yeah, no, but I do agree with when you take education into your own hands, which, whether they're in the school or not, we should be considering that, because they're not learning everything that they need to be successful in life in general in a classroom setting, right? So taking more of that into our own hands and taking responsibility for some of that. And also even from a perspective of, if we're not okay with the curriculum, working with the school board members to make sure that the curriculum best suits our neighborhoods or reflects the neighborhoods that we have or the demographics of people that we have in it. So that's something that we can all do collectively as community members, because most of our communities are very diverse. So having those history lessons as it pertains to the individuals that reflect that community, I think is important.
True, true, true. Because this is the thing. I mean, I'm fortunate that my youngest son is in Mass Charter School, and my oldest boy is, finishing his senior year at Frankfurt High. The way Mass is doing it is the top 10% don't have to go to school, which is shrinking it in the class size. And only kids they kind of forcing to go is kids that, for one, who parents need them to go to school, and
Mm-hmm.
two, kids who has a lot of trouble with school. So I'm okay with that, but like you said, this is going to be difficult. I mean,
It's kind of a lose-lose situation,
yes, 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 and
unfortunately.
that's the part that gets me. And not only that, because for one, the school system is not really truly teaching our kids anything that we truly need, especially when it comes to history. And that's one of my main things that I do touch on my kids is when you have your history, let's go over it and let you understand both sides of this history coin. Not only that, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you now, my fifth grade. My son is going into the sixth grade. No, he's going into the fifth grade. I can't do his math for some crazy reason. I cannot do his math, and it's bad enough that I got to help him, and I have to go to Google and let Google teach me and him how to.
Right.
So, you know, I'm understanding now how my parents felt when they came to algebra and trigonometry, and in school that was like my super classes that I love. But now I'm understanding that nah, that's not me. It's not. I'm not even built for it. But at the same time, this virtual class is going to be something to do. How can you do a virtual class and make sure all your students is on, and making sure all your students is okay with the program? That's what I want to see. How? And it's like I
Mm-hmm.
want to take a day off just to see how does this work, because if it was me, I come open up my laptop, somehow take a selfie and just put it here, and you would think I'm there the whole time. How can you interact? That's what I mean. Kids gonna find ways to cheat and go right into bed. So it's gonna be.
It's not for everybody. That's why they have cyber school for those that, and we did cyber school some years back, and it was not for us. So I knew that this was going to be challenging for our family.
Yeah, that's what I had my difficulties with trying to instruct, because in April they decided everyone had to do like lessons from on the computer. And it just was like I just was really just tuning in to say hello, because especially with the younger children, like the kindergartners, hard for them to, like, you can't do it with them at all. That's
Right.
just
That's interesting, because there and I know there are some schools too that are doing, like, the schools. My youngest is in going into third grade, and my middle one is going into seventh grade. So they have the younger kids, lower school and middle school, coming back, but upper school, because it's half boarding, they have the older kids doing virtual learning from home, and they have the younger kids coming in, which I thought was interesting. But you're right, Zola. I mean, and my nephew stays with us, and he's going into second grade, but he's grossly behind. And when we went to virtual learning this time around, it was pure torture for me, because I don't know how to teach him from a perspective of learning, his learning disability, if you will, that he's not necessarily diagnosed with, but you can just tell that there's some challenges there. I hired a tutor. However, through virtual learning, in a situation like that, I have to sit down with him and do all of his assignments. You're right. The teachers, just at that time anyway, I don't know if it'll look different this time around. for him, but the teacher was just pretty much checking in with them and trying to do lessons the best that she could. It was interesting to watch, but for the most part, I'm sitting there at home doing the assignments after they're done their Zoom call with him.
Mm-hmm.
So now I become the teacher, of course, which I don't mind, but it's challenging if you have a kid that's behind, because I don't know where to start. I'm like, what's 2 plus 2? And he's like 8, and I don't know how to correct that. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm trying. I've learned some patience, to say the least.
But see, that's the thing about it. It's going to be a lot of parents that don't have that type of patience.
Right.
And,
Or
and
not,
that,
or can't be home with them. Right. I was fortunate where I had an opportunity to be home with them. That will look completely different this time around, because it's not going to be the same situation. We're not going to be home. So it's again, it's a lose-lose situation, unfortunately, all the way around. I don't know what the right answer is, but there's going to be a lot of disparities from it, unfortunately, and we're going to have a lot of cleanup to do.
It reminds me of when they first introduced No Child Left Behind. And what that looked like was you getting old and not knowing the work, but they couldn't keep you in that same grade anymore. So you had people kind of just push through school, and then they get to college and they can't succeed at college because they just kind of just push through, like, okay, we can't keep you in the 12th grade anymore. You're about to be 8 and 19, things like that. So it reminds me of that, because what's going to happen is the expectation will have to be really low now. The bar has to be really low, and the bar is already really low with the school district. Like my program at my school district, it was called SLO, SLO, Student Learning Objectives. And what the children had to learn from the September to June, they would learn it. They probably hit their learning goal in like January, because what they do is when they develop curriculum, they test all the schools in that area, and they go by the midpoint where all the students score. So if all the schools are scoring low, you already have a very not stimulating curriculum. The curriculum is already like things that they had for like kindergartners. It just was like, we're going to learn this like right away. But if I was a teacher who didn't want to push farther, it would have been okay if I just was giving them what they were telling me to give them. But we were accomplishing, get those things out the way like before January. So I think it's going to get really complicated. Even I had one friend who said they were trying to give her nephew a discipline action because his cousin would be home and being loud while he was doing the lesson. They were trying to like give him some kind of like behavioral thing, and I'm like, how, you for one, children can't control environment, but I'm really wondering. I think we're going to have to really, if they really wanted to follow these students through to see how they succeeded during this time, because this is foundational years. When you look at pre-K to 3rd grade, if you're not reading by 3rd grade, your success in middle school and all that stuff is already you're already set in the boat that's sinking,
Mm-hmm.
So you might be in the boat, but the whole time you're pouring water out because you're already in a boat if you don't get that foundation. So especially those children in those foundational stages, just seeing, just following them, I could see a wave of not, of just the educational gap even farther. We already have a huge educational gap, and I could just see it being even wider from
Right.
all of this. It's just, the teachers for one have to teach. They also have to homeschool their children. The parents have to work. They have to, then it's weird because you're sending children to child care centers, but not opening up schools. So it's all just really what we have to look at. Why was the education system created? Who does it benefit?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this might actually turn into maybe people really understanding the education system, because parents don't really know what their children are learning. And in the schools, I've seen children come into the schools and just pick up so much negativity from environment, from how teachers might talk to them, from how they might be allowed to be bullied in certain ways. If a teacher has 30 students, they can't always monitor what's going on. So sometimes children are already just inside of an environment where they are, there's a lot against them. There's a lot, it's very hard. So I do understand, like, they go to school to have social life and things like that. But I remember when I was in school, and that's why I chose to do early education, because I had a teacher who told me I wasn't good at math. And my whole life, I was like, I can't do math. Like, if I would get any kind of math, my brain would just like shut off. Like, I was like, I can't do this. And it wasn't until literally like I got to college that I was like, this is easy. Like, I could do this. I could learn this. I could reteach myself this. So I see it really being just like a guinea pig experiment. If you really follow these children along, I mean, it's going to take a lot, to kind of close the education gap here.
Yeah, and I think we already have a big one, like you said. So I have kids in private and public. I've been all around the block, charter school, the whole nine. And I remember when I started to learn about just like different opportunities. I had my kids really young, so I remember when I started to learn about different opportunities as far as charter schools and private schools and things like that. When I was visiting private schools, I was like, man, it's sad to see what the resources and the capability that they have with young people versus our public school system. And a part of me wants to blame that on too much regulation. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but that's my conclusion going through this process. And I have a son that already graduated from high school. So the only thing I can assume is that, because if you look at it, the schools that have less regulation, they're just able to do a lot more, it seems like, for their kids. And a lot of the, at least the private schools around here, are teaching based on the demographics that they have in their school district, or excuse me, in their schools, right? So they say, okay, we got 17 different countries represented. How can we make sure that those cultures are represented within our curriculum? And they readjust that curriculum every single year, which is, I think, very interesting. We don't tend to do that in the public school system. So, and then the biggest thing for me is those classroom sizes. Like you said, 30 plus kids or 25 plus kids in a classroom. How is 1-2 teachers making sure that each individual child is receiving the type of education that they need to receive? There's absolutely no way. And then with the rise of IEPs, you have a whole nother issue on your hands. So my thing is, okay, we have a rise in IEPs. Why not then try to figure out a way to readjust our educational system and say, okay, maybe these children need to have more of an individualized education plan from the gate. You know what I'm saying? And that's what private schools tend to do. And that, again, that's just my personal experience with each kid in each situation. And I know everything isn't for everybody, but that individualized education plan is extremely important, especially as it pertains to young people that are already behind, right? So if my nephew, who's 7 years old, can't read and can't do math, and he's going into second grade, and that's literally our situation, and they're constantly pushing him along and saying he'll catch up, he'll never catch up. You have to go back and start from the beginning. And that's what we have a tutor doing. I don't know if it's enough, though, because the school isn't necessarily on board with that process. But if I go to a private school, I know that they will be on board with that process, which is, I think that's sad. Do you know? I don't know if I'm right, Xola. You know more than I do, so.
You're right.
What's up, King Tut?
This is King Tut. This is
Peace. How y'all doing?
another 1/3 of the three-headed monster, a partner. But yeah, Tut, we talking about this school system, man, and how you feel about this current situation about making our kids go back to school at this present moment.
My opinion, putting the kids in that situation is definitely detrimental to every family in America. But like Amber was just saying, I agree. Like the public school system is basic learning, and you don't get a real education in that. You get pushed through a lot, And actually, in public schools, I'm not too familiar with public schools, but I know their curriculum caters more to the individual or to the people themselves, because like everybody has different ways that they learn, and the public school system forces this curriculum onto you regardless of how you learn. And I think in a public schooling system, they individualize and cater to each student's learning abilities and teach from that way. Like in the public school system, you got a classroom full of kids, and the teacher is just pushing her agenda from the curriculum instead of learning each kid individually and seeing how they learn. You know, you got visual learners, you got hands-on learners, you know, you got different ways that people learn. So definitely the youth should be being taught more information, because this information, as you get it as a child, it makes up your character of who you are as an adult. So what you're learning in your young stages, you know, it becomes second nature to you as an adult. So if you're not imputing the right information into the children as youth, then it's going to be harder when they get older. So I think elementary school is a vital part in children's education. But I'm definitely an advocate of parents teaching the children themselves. You know, so parents, they have to up their education levels so they can teach their kids properly. Because you sending your kids into a public school or either a private school, your children should know how to conduct themselves. They should know how to respect others, you know. And so some of these things can be taught at home. And as far as like educating them, like I say, parents, I think they should be the foundation of that.
That's the first teacher. You know, the parents are the first teacher. It's good if parents go work with school and home and things like that. But you know, I get told all the time from parents, look, we sent them here, it's your job to teach them. And you be like, oh, you know, I can't really make your child learn. Like, I can't get them how you could get them. So I need you to really work on this. But what I wanted to say, you said it's a basic education, you know, these schools, but it really is conditioning. It really is.
Right. True indeed.
School district, I really want us to call it conditioning, because
I call it indoctrination.
is I'm sorry, what you saying?
I call it indoctrination. Keep going. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. Even if a child has a spark or wants to do something a certain kind of way, but doesn't want to do it this way, now it's like you know, the child is rebellious or a troublemaker or a problem, you know, because they might have a certain way that they want to do something. So it's really teaching them how to basically walk this straight line and do things this way and listen to authority, or you know, do this and do that. And then one thing I want to say too, like I know my grandmother, she was always big on not accepting free things, you know, things that are for free. So when you look at a free education system, you know, there's not a lot of value in it. Whatever someone's just giving you and saying, hey, go here, do this, it's not going to be like how a private school where you pay. And you know, when you go to private schools, I don't know children who failed. You know, I don't, because they you know, their parents would be like, I paid $800 a month. You know what? I don't know who fell at private schools. But as far as public schools, it's like you got someone who's getting left down in kindergarten. It's like, that's the gate. How did they get left down at the gate? Like, that's the doormat of schools. You know, that's their first foot in the pool. Like, how are they not successful? But
Right.
you know, so I think we really do have to just look at you know, this free education thing, and just like the rules about it, like the truancy rules, the tardy rules, like some of these things that are just free and just looking like a handout, they could be a lot more harmful than they are helpful. So we definitely have to be on board to you know, to help supplement the education and you know, and put things in there we want them to learn. Because I'm telling you, I've been teaching for 6 years. If I didn't go above and beyond because I wanted to, definitely would have been a very basic experience, because they don't ask you to do too much.
Zola, do you think public education is moving in a different direction, or education period is moving into a different direction? Do you know what I mean when I say, like,
Okay, oh, she froze. Oh, I thought it was just me.
Where Anthony at?
No, I ain't not gonna be on today, man. Yeah, get Amber back on.
Hey, but as how do you pronounce your name? Is it
Zola.
Zola? As she eloquently put, the basic school system is conditioning, and conditioning for a lot of people that don't understand. I give you an example from a psychologist, B.F. Skinner. You know, he did a experiment to where Peace Jerome.
Oh, bro, how you
B.F.
doing?
Skinner, he did a experiment to where he calls it. I mean, what he did was he take a dog and he would ring a bell. You know what I'm saying? Then he would feed the dog. You take the dog and you ring a bell and then you feed him. You ring a bell and then you feed him. And eventually, this dog, he hears a bell now. He starts to salivate and slobber, anticipating his meal. And so that's what's happening in the public school system. They're conditioning us to be laborers. They're conditioning us to be not to be as intelligent, because the curriculum doesn't even cover, but so much information. And in that information, they condition you to an assimilating mindset, to where you would assimilate into this American culture and this American history and follow suit. So yeah, I think that's definitely an important part to understand, that the basic school system is basically conditioning us to be batteries.
Absolutely. And just what Amber was saying, is she gonna get back on the line, Brian?
I'm trying to get her back on right now.
But what she was saying, and maybe I'll say it again when she comes on. Has there been a big change? Is the school district going into a new direction? I don't think so. I remember one time I went back to visit my elementary school when I first finished college, and it was literally like the same desk from when I was at that school. So I was just like, so just like as far as change, we haven't had that big wave of change within the school district. We haven't had a curriculums, everything's the same, the themes are the same, and we're changing, we're evolving, technology's evolving, things are getting different, but we're still
Okay.
the same way. Even with the textbooks, not enough technology. These are technology era. Children be around technology, and with those books, some of those children, they come to school, they don't even know how to hold the book, they don't even have books at home, so they don't even know. They're like, so I feel like I feel like we're at the point where this might cause a big change, get results of how this all turns out. But I don't think schools, since they were created, have had much change.
Sorry, guys, I dropped off.
No problem. No problem. No problem. We was hoping you was coming back on. All right, now go ahead and ask that
From a
question.
different device.
Okay, Brother Jerome is on. This is another theft. This is the third partner to the three-headed monster. You have Zola, and you already met Amber. So, Ms. Amber, go ahead and finish that question you was asking.
What was the question?
You was asking
Short-term memory loss.
You was asking Zola about the school system. Have it changed.
Oh yeah. So I was asking, do you think our educational system is headed in a different direction because we do have so many options out there? And the reason why I asked that is because there's some folks from a legislative perspective that support and promote the voucher concept, which I kind of feel like that's where we're at right now, is that voucher concept. So I don't agree with it because I feel like it leaves a class of people behind. But I also understand that again, public education is so regulated, we can't get the work done that we need to get done in that setting. So yeah, so do you see our educational system headed in a different direction? And if you agree with vouchers or disagree, if you want to talk, I guess touch on that too.
I think we are headed in a different direction. I don't think we're there, but I think we are going to go through we're going to have to reevaluate a lot of things within the school district. And like you said, the teachers are not given a lot of power. You know, with the public schools, it's really a lot of, even if you want to do certain stuff, I mean, it was times where I wanted to do things very basic and just don't get that approval, you know, from to give a good teaching experience. And, you know, so I do feel like we are on the brink of going into another direction. And I think the schools period need to be, I can't think of the words that I'm trying to use right now.
I need to adjust the curriculum.
What is it called? Like I can't think of the words right now, but it's definitely, it needs to be a wave of change. I don't think much.
Like revamp.
Restructure.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, like I was saying, when you got cut off, when I had finished college, I went back to visit my middle school, I'm sorry. And it was the same desk in the school that were in there when I went there, you know? So I was just like, children are different now. Like, they might not need to sit in this restricted type of sitting, or, like, children are so technology right now, it's still like the textbooks. I'm like, why are we still, focusing on these things when it's a wave of technology? Everything around us is changing. You got like the self-checkout now. You have just everything is being different, and the schools have remained the same. So it needs to be a big change.
I was gonna say the other challenge with all of that too is, so some districts, as we know, are so much further along than other districts. And that has to do with the fair funding formula in Pennsylvania. And if we don't
get to that,
if we don't deal with that, we're going to continue to see the same challenges as it pertains to the public education in Pennsylvania. But I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel as it pertains to the fair funding formula. So, I mean, you have affluent districts. One of the top school districts is right here in Chester County, Tredyffrin Township, Tredyffrin School District, and everything is completely different compared to a Coatesville area school district. Do you know what I mean? Or even a Reading area school district. So that, and in some of those areas that don't necessarily have the resources, the property values are a lot lower. They don't have the business the business structure there to help support the tax base. So those schools seem to be spending a little bit more, but not necessarily having the same system in place as it pertains to some of those affluent areas. So I find that interesting, and I can only blame the fair funding formula on that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I can say, I can speak from my experiences from growing up in school and looking back on it now, because my great nephews, they go to the same elementary school. Bun represented, they go to the same elementary school that I went to, and so they have different events, and I, definitely there to support my nephews, my great nephews. And as I go there, some of the same teachers that I went to school with are still teaching. So and it amazes me, like,
that's because they started when they was 12. No, teachers start fairly young, right? So
right. And so that alludes to my point. There should be a new wave of teachers coming in. And I remember me initially, I was trying to do some work with the school system, and Mrs. Harris, she was like, she say, Alfonso, that's my government name, Alfonso. She's like, Alfonso, we definitely need a lot of young Black men to be leaders and be teachers. And so, I was helping doing some tutoring and recruiting kids for a summer school. And as I put my application in to be a certified tutor, I was turned down because of I had felonies on my record. And in the state of South Carolina, if you have a felony on your record, you can't educate children. So, there are certain requirements, that you have to have, and those limitations, from mistakes we made, I made, those mistakes hinder you in life. So, I mean, if we're not going to cater to the future, who else can educate the kids better than someone that had experienced it, So, I had to take it upon myself, and just speak to people in other avenues different than from the curriculum and from the school system. But definitely the school system, you have a lot of teachers that are older and they're set in their ways, and they're not even educating, they're not teaching, they're just going through letting children do what they want to do, and the children aren't learning at all.
I mean, you gotta look at it like, how often do teachers have to be, to take a test or something? Or,
Right.
I had this one teacher one time in my one of my old jobs, and I mean, she was just so old school, and like, I really was like, I never believed like a degree could expire, but I feel like she needs to like go through the things again, because all the things that she learned and how she learned to teach, it was like, that doesn't work for children who have autism. Like, you didn't have that when you were teaching, or you didn't know what that was. They weren't included in the classroom. So the things that she would do, I would just be like, oh my gosh, I can't keep turning another cheek to this, I mean, it wasn't like it was, I'm a mandated reporter, so it wasn't like it was abuse or something like that, but it just was that her old school ways and the ways that she taught and the way that she dealt with children who are on the spectrum and certain things, it just was like, like shocking, like that you haven't had to go and redo a course for children on the spectrum, or special education. Like, it's not really, once you're in there, you're in there. You work your 40 years, you retire. Once you're in there, you're in there. And it's not a lot of overhead, reviews of teachers and how well they do. It's not a lot of, okay, 8 children in your classroom failed, so now we need to have a meeting with you. Like, it's none of that, So it's really just, I mean, especially within the public schools that I'm familiar with, it's let's evaluate how the children, it's not that. It's like, we have a shortage of teachers. You're here today. Thank you. Here's your class. So,
Yeah.
Well, I also heard that a lot of teachers in Pennsylvania anyway wind up leaving. Like, if you go to school here, you wind up leaving and getting a job elsewhere. Is that true?
I think Pennsylvania, it might be a pretty good rate with that, because I think in Pennsylvania you have to have a Pennsylvania teaching certificate to teach here. Okay. So even I went to school in OSU, I had to come back here and get certified through like Temple and do other things, because I couldn't teach with the Ohio thing in Pennsylvania. So that was just to me, because I'm like, we're all teaching like the same stuff. But yeah, I think Pennsylvania, you can go anywhere to teach, but you can't come here from other places and teach. You have to have a PA certified teaching certificate for you to teach within Pennsylvania.
Wow.
So that gives a setback of your options of who's going to be.
Another thing that I actually have a problem with is these particular tests that they're giving the ELCs or whatever they're giving out to get the funding that they need. These. I'm trying to think. I'm thinking, am I saying that right? ELTs? Is it ELTs? I don't know. What you have to take, what every year the kids have to take, and then the school gets graded.
Like the PSSAs and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Did we lose Xola?
Yeah. Okay, did we lose Xola? All right, let me see if we can get her back.
Say you disabled my video.
Oh, okay.
Brian's always messing with something.
Everybody says that, and I'm not. All right, hit the video.
I don't know what you're doing on your end, but
I'm not doing nothing. It's just the video.
Like, even now it says, Brian, you're the host now.
Yes.
But you should always be the host.
I am, but sometimes I have to get your video on. I don't know how this system works. Sometimes I have to make you host just to get the video on.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, as you should say, the P. What would we say again?
I was saying, are you talking about the PSSAs and things like that?
Yes. Which it's a test that I really don't like, but I mean, I know you have to do it, but the funding comes because of the test. And, if the school gets a low score, where they don't get that much money. You would think it should be the opposite. If this school is not getting good scores, you should pump more money into that school district to bring those kids up, because evidently something is failing there for these kids not to get that school. And it's kind of like when it comes to the low income areas, they don't care. They just, hey, fine, we send this money to the suburban kids. And that's something that I don't like. But for instance, on my part, I wasn't letting my son go to public school here in Pennsylvania, especially here in Philly. So I was looking to move just because I think the school system, not saying the school system don't care, I just don't think the state care about the school system, about the kids here in Philadelphia, especially in a low income. So yes, I moved out, but then my son was blessed to get in a mass charter school, which is one of the top schools in PA. But at the same time, I wasn't just going to let him. I mean, I knew I was going to have to put my extra work in to make sure that he did good in school if he was to go to school in PA, but I mean, in school in Philadelphia. But that was something that I was fighting with that. I was seriously fighting with that. But go ahead, Tut.
Hey, standardized testing within itself. Standardized testing creates robots basically, because standardized testing is only trying to compare schools, and and they check that, like Zola was saying, there's no measurement for teachers' way of teaching. So standardized testing tests the students, and then they compare this among schools to see how the teacher is doing. And basically the teacher is basically making robots, basically, because they're only going to teach the kids how to pass the test. And so critical thinking and things like that, they aren't being involved, and students aren't learning how to use their intuition. They're not learning how to use their senses and their innate abilities that come from nature. So the standardized testing system within itself, you're basically making robots or batteries.
Absolutely.
That's why I said the public educational system is just too regulated.
Yeah.
Teachers don't have a choice but to teach to the test, because that's what needs to be passed to make sure that they receive the funding that they need to be able to continue what they're doing.
Right.
Whereas a private school doesn't have to do that. I think they still take those standardized tests, but because they're not regulated in that manner, they don't have to teach to the test. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So they can create their own curriculums and still kind of do their own thing, but they're not banking on the government's money to be able to do the job that they need to do. And that, for me, that's why I believe in everything needs to be hyper local. So sometimes, a lot of times, like, especially when we're picking our elected officials, we send too much, what's the word I'm looking for? Responsibility to Harrisburg or to Washington. We want to give them everything. Like, no, we need to make sure that we keep our ability to make change locally, because every community is different. When we give those rights away, or when we give so much to the government, or put so much responsibility on them, and we're not taking care of our own backyard, so to say, things don't go well.
Right.
So we just need to take more control of our situation in our own backyards. We can't give so much control to the government.
Right.
And that's what we've done with our public educational system. Now, granted, they are tasked with providing a free and appropriate public education to every child. However, I think, Zola, you mentioned this. You're like, okay, what value do you put on free? And I love what your grandmother said. Nothing is free. I tell my kids all the time. So I ran for office a couple of times, Zola, and I remember my daughter, she's like, when you win, you should make a law that all kids get free ice cream. I said, okay. I said, well, you got to think about it. Someone made that ice cream. Someone paid to make that ice cream. So just because it's free to you doesn't mean it's free in general, right? So we always put value on stuff that we pay for. And that's probably one of the prime reasons that the private schools are so successful. But the other thing too, even with charter schools, one of the things that, like, when I was even evaluating different opportunities for my kids, and I thought about taking them to charter school, the application process, all the things that you have to do to even get to that point. Now you have an environment of probably 98% of parents that give a damn. Not saying that others don't, right, if they're in the public educational system, but you have almost 100% of participation.
Yep.
Whereas in the public educational system, you have kind of the whole gamut. So now you're dealing with, all the challenges that brings. And for me, it was just, I wanted my kids to have just kind of the diversity of different people from different communities, because you could be, a mile away from a different community and still have a completely different perspective. And I thought that was pretty dope. For me anyway, growing up in kind of a bubble in one little city, you only get that perspective, or sometimes you get stuck in kind of that four-wall mentality, like there's not this great big world out there and you don't have experiences and things like that. So for me, it was always more so about experiences that my kids needed to have, to just have a kind of a worldview perspective, because sometimes our worlds can be very, very small. But yeah, so I digress. That's all I got.
No. I mean, I think you make a valid point there too, that children should be taught global. Like you say, technology has changed to where what we used to be used to, just being stuck in a small town and like having a four wall. Now, economy is global. Technology is global. So children should be having a mentality of doing business and things of that nature globally. So the education system should be catering to a global mindset, not only just focusing on an area that you live in, or even just focusing on America. It should be, an education system should be teaching a global aspect, so that children, when they're learning, they're learning what's being manufactured in Africa. They're learning what's being manufactured in Mexico, and so they're not just being conditioned to think that these four walls that they're in is all that it is.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, though. Do we teach our kids, or is our school system teaching our kids to think outside that box?
Right.
Not in the public school system.
I don't.
That's my personal opinion. I don't think so. Xola, what do you think?
Xola's their teacher.
It's right, exactly. That is so true, and that's the problem. Not saying you don't get teachers in other settings that aren't there, that don't go above and beyond, but those schools do try to hire teachers and folks that are going above and beyond. Right? They're scouting that talent out. No, you're absolutely right. Because even with my oldest, I remember when we were in public school, I still remember today who those teachers were that went above and beyond. I remember his first Black teacher who sat and called me and was like, listen, I had to sit Omar down and say, you're a Black man in America, and the world doesn't work necessarily in your favor all the time. So if you keep acting like that, they're going to put you in this box over here. She changed his entire life. When he left her classroom, this was first grade, he cried. So it's just like, I'll always remember that experience. I remember all of the great teachers that I had in my life, and I have a really bad memory, but I remember the great teachers that I had in my life. So that influence, it's just like a parent. It's just like a mentor. That influence is so crucial. So it breaks my heart when I see a teacher that isn't there to want to change a kid's life. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not just about teaching. I mean, you are literally, not saying it's your job, but you are literally another caregiver for this child, and you're going to impact the rest of their life. Yeah, that's a huge responsibility. If you take it seriously.
What I've seen that's been really good too, and you don't see it as often, is some of the schools, they do it where the children who are in elementary, because those teachers are certified to teach all of elementary, they move up with their class. So every year you're getting the same teacher. You don't have to start off fresh. It's the same teacher. They know your personality. They know your learning style. Because most times new teachers every year, they have to relearn this child. You know, the child until about November, you know, it takes away so much. So those
And then
schools,
it's over. The school that my two middle ones go to, they stay with the same teacher 2 years in a row.
yeah, so I think
And then they make, like you said, they make the recommendation. They're like, I think this kid would do good with this teacher, because they, like you said, they get to learn the personalities. So there's just so much, and some of it isn't, I guess now that we're having this conversation, isn't so much regulation. It's more just having this type of conversation. Okay, what are folks doing that's working?
yeah,
Like, why are some of these schools so successful, and taking some of those practices and putting them into the regular educational system?
from some global places, like for example, Iceland, like they have a very awesome, unique way of teaching. Some of the Asian countries have a very unique way of teaching math. You know, that's why we're getting this revamped math that we're getting now. Is because it's these other cultures who are influencing us to show math more than one way. Because what we do a lot is we teach them rules. We don't teach them logic or critical thinking. We just teach the rules. Is the zero goes here. You never know why the zero comes before one, or you know, certain things. This is the rule, you know, and children get caught up with trying to learn every single rule so they can figure things out, so they don't get caught up in thinking about why is this the rule, you know? That's what I went through school. I used to write down every single formula. If I got this formula, I could plug this in, I could do this and do that. But those formulas take away from you understanding the concrete of, you know, of how to operate, even with you know, with language, you know, with math, with language, with science, so many just like ways to just memorize this and then you'll be able to do it. But why?
That's our problem. We memorize everything.
Yeah.
That's what everything is. You go to school just to memorize everything.
Wait a
You
minute.
got to understand concepts, like Xola said.
Wait a minute now. Let's not deteriorate memory, because memory is intelligence.
No,
So
but I mean, you understand what I mean, though.
Yeah. So we're making parrots so that they're memorizing the curriculum instead of memorizing intelligence and catering to that intelligence itself.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Because some of the children who get certain things, it's not that they're smarter than the other children. It's because they've literally programmed themselves to understand, you know, like they can't tell you the rule behind it. They're just like, I know when I see this, I'm supposed to do that to make this. But they still don't understand it. So you might, if you probe, well, why are you doing it? Oh, because, you know, when you do this, you have to put that there. That's how that works. But they don't understand why they're doing it. And you know, they get frustrated when you're asking, well, why? Well, why? You know, why is that? And I think, you know, as teachers, we have to be like, we're not supposed to be hiding the knowledge. Explain to them why. You know, don't make it just like this golden rule for this. Like, explain, like really break those things down. Because once you understand why, and you know, you don't need all of those golden rules for things, you know? And that's what we've been teaching them. Like, it doesn't make sense, I know, but that's the rule.
Right. It's almost like that old, you know, do what I say, don't do as I do type of mentality, right? Just, you don't explain, why can't I go, you know, play in the street? Because I said so. You don't explain why. You're going to get hit by a car, right?
But I think it's definitely a stride in the right direction, as Xola was saying, having the teacher stick with that group or class for 2 to 3 years. I think that is a great stride, because not only are you just pushing a curriculum, you're actually learning the students and how they learn. And even in the pass off process, you can get this to you can get this student to another teacher who, you know, who this teacher knows this other teacher, and they can know exactly what they're passing off and what teacher can help them in a better way. So I think that's a great step in the right direction if public schools start to take upon that step right there.
And it's not just learning the students, it's learning the families, you know, it's learning.
Right.
I remember I was teaching and I had this one guy who would come in every day and drop his child off. And it was like February and he went to pick his son up. He was trying to say something to me. And this was February. He was trying to say something like, excuse me, what's your name again? And I'm like, your son has been here since September. You don't know my name? Like, you drop me every morning. creating that culture too, because then you might understand, okay, well, Leon, you know, his family, you know, you might understand the family a little bit more. Like I had a child who I knew needed to eat all the time. And I knew that about him. Like he couldn't focus. I had to bring like graham crackers and I had to do certain stuff because mom would just be like, well, we go from here and we do this and we do that. And I just knew they didn't have a lot of food at home. So we had like these carts that the lunch lady would push. And when he would hear those carts, he would just go crazy. And every day I was like, when he hear that cart, you know, he thinking food coming in here. That's why he's going crazy like this. Because at first I was like, I don't know what triggered him. You know, he just went crazy. But, you know, I think learning the families, you know, learning just is really a good idea. They could do 2 to 3 years with the same teacher. I mean, unless it's like they're really just not getting along and you got to put them somewhere else. But I think that would change a lot if we just did small things that make huge, you know, impactful differences.
Yeah, and it does. And it does. I think then my situation is a different because my wife is French Caribbean, and you know, for her to bring the philosophy of what schooling they had here, because they know so much that it's embarrassing to understand the school system here. Because me having a chance to go to the Caribbean and talking to some of the you know, the family there and understanding that, you know, these kids are learning 3, 4 languages by the time they even 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Or not only that is they knew more about U.S. history and a whole different side of U.S. history because they teach world history. It's something that they push a whole different agenda when it comes to education than what we do. Because, and you know, I felt a little small at first because, you know, I'm like, wow, I'm from a small city from Gaffney, South Carolina. We went to the same high school. We know of what they don't teach us and how narrow and small-minded we are because we never thought about anything other than, I mean, if you went to college, you went to college, but somehow you found your way back home. So they didn't teach you how to get away. They didn't teach you how to live. They just teach you it's a certain way they did things that just I'm uncomfortable just seeing it now. And you know, it's something that I push now. Um, my middle son is here with me now, and he's, you know, he went from a 8th grade. This is the last year he did in South Carolina. He was at D's. He had D's and C's. He's up here. He's part of the student body council. He's an honor roll student. He's major his sport. He's the captain of his track team. He's the captain of his wrestling team. We wasn't taught those opportunities. And it's something that I didn't, you know, what I didn't learn or what I didn't get, I want to make sure I push that for my kids to be better than what I had. And that's something that a lot of parents cannot do because they don't have that time to even sit there and breathe because they got to put food on the table. That's the sad part about that. And
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
We need more minority teachers. Minority? Am I saying minority? We need more black teachers. How about that? I'm gonna say
like
that.
I've spoken in the past, like, and even Zola reiterated on, is your parents are your first teacher. And even my daughter, I didn't want to force my daughter to learn certain things. Even though I wanted her to know certain things, I didn't force her to learn certain things. But what I did do is I made sure that she would see me reading. I made sure that she would see me studying. So that this became accustomed to her that this is what it is. So if kids aren't seeing their parents studying, learning, and growing themselves, then it's not going to be conducive to make that child do that.
Oh, and that's what I want to just say in closing because I have to go soon, about 9:30 I have to go. But you know, we could talk a lot about the schools and the school district and the teachers, but we really have to talk about us as a community and how important do we think education is. Because I've been at schools where I've tried to host mommy meetings where I've had those, stay late for those parent-teacher conference nights. Parents don't show up. Where I've sent notes home, sent resources home, even offered come out of my own pocket to help with financial offset for school materials. And when you don't have a community that takes education seriously, you're never going to have a school district could be top of the line, the best laptops, the best everything in it. But if you have a community that does not take education seriously, it won't last. Just like by the zoo, that school, Bill Gates school, they put it there, and like the first year, did amazing. The second year, and now it's just like, if you don't have the community that values the education, if you have that, it won't matter how much funding the school district does, how much revamping it does, how great the teachers are. Because if we don't take to educating our children, we don't say, look, this is how we do it in this house, then, it won't, it would be all work in vain. So, and the schools can do as much as they can, but I think just us as a community, we have to have a realization of how important education is and close those gaps, because people like us, we are, like we get to learn in Black history, learning certain things, like, we're the originators of so many things, and a lot of things we haven't gotten credit for, so many things that we have done and, invented and created, and our ideas are just crazy. But I think we have to just focus on that as a community. We have to get better. When we have these meetings at the town hall, I don't see parents there. I don't see anybody from my classroom there when I tell them, hey, this is what's going on. We need to all show up. I don't see it. Or, we're trying to get this, bill, and you do that. So, we have to really just stop looking at the schools, because that's how they want us to look at it. Just send your child there. We'll educate them. Your child is fine. Don't worry about it. So until we step up and get more involved, nothing can really change until we take another path with it.
I agree.
Wow, I ain't got nothing else to say.
As you say, you hit the hammer on the nail with that one.
The nail on the head.
Thank you. I just wanted to express that because I don't want to. I know some really good teachers, and I know some really good schools, and I've been to some really good schools, and I've been really mostly almost every time I'm disappointed in the parents. I am disappointed in the parents, just as a community person, and just taking, because I'd be like, I'm the community stepmom, because when you work with children like that, you feel that way. And and I've had to tell parents, pull them to the side, like, look. And sometimes the parents be like, I don't want Sister Xola talking to me because I let them know, like, listen, they said they was up all night. That's why they was asleep today in class. So sometimes the parents would get like a little intimidated, like I had a meeting one time in the church. They was like, damn, the parents said that you be telling them about themselves. I'm like, yeah, like in the most way. But it's like you can't be upset if your son doesn't notice if you don't make him go to bed at night, and if he comes to school every day, and and he's oops, can y'all hear me still?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, yeah. So I think I have to go, but I'm trying to stay just for a closing thought. But someone keeps FaceTiming me. But I'm supposed to pick somebody up at 9:30.
Okay. We understand if you have to go, but we do truly appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Pleasure meeting you.
You're welcome to come back on. I know you want to do another one on, we'll talk about that. But
nice to meet you, Xola.
Yes, you guys too. And my Instagram is @CrystalJohn, and my Facebook, I'm Xola Zori Tumani. It's only like 2 of us, so I should pop up. But definitely nice to meet you, and I look forward to being on the show again soon. Thank you, Brian, for having me. It was nice to meet you, Amber. Thank you, King Tut. You guys continue. I'm going to come and watch this later, so I'm going to go because I got things to do. But thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Travels.
Thank you. I mean, we can wrap it up because the way she left it though, it's like.
Yeah, she shut it down.
Those were definitely closing remarks for sure.
Right.
Nothing else to say. I'm just being real because it's kind of like it's good to hear something like that from a person. Oh, is she still on? Yeah.
Hold up.
Let me out of here.
When this end meeting, don't end all meetings. That's all.
Okay, hold on. End. leave webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave webinar.
Yes.
Assign. Oh, because you got me the host. That's why. Let me make you the host.
Oh, okay. Man, my bad. My bad. Go ahead. Now do it. All right. All right. Amber, go ahead and give your final words. Miss
No,
Amber.
like I said, I think Zola, you know, her closing remarks were on point, because without the community fully engaged in the process, we can't keep depending on other people or the government to save us, if you will, right? And when I think about, it's interesting that she said that, because when I think about the school districts that are working well, it's not only their tax base, it's not only that they have the financial resources, it's also the community is probably, you know, a lot more engaged than some of the other communities that are struggling as far as the school district is concerned. So, but yeah, no, I appreciate, you know, coming on once again to talk about a topic that's near and dear to our household, and hopefully we can, you know, continue to head in a direction that is better for our children and our children's children, for that matter.
True, true, true. Such, you got any final words?
Basically, you know, Tut love the kids, but it's up to the parents, man. That's where it starts at, man. And we can point the finger at this school system all we want. We can say lack of resources as far as money. We can say, you know, we can say this, we can say that, we can say all kind of stuff. But it's basically up to the parents. And I reflect on myself raising my daughter. What I tried to make sure I put in her life. I made sure that, you know, I was taught this way. My father made me read. He made me study. So I made sure that my daughter seen an example. So kids don't know what to look up to unless a proper example is set by them. And parents, it's our responsibility, you know, to set that example, set that bar high for our children.
Facts. All right, y'all. Again, I guess my closing remarks is, you know, take pride and take initiative in what your kids is learning. Be a part of it. Be a part of it. It is not the school's responsibility to teach your kids what's right or wrong. They're just gonna just teach your kid what the curriculum is, and not matter if it's right or wrong. So, you know, be more involved. Like she said, we have to be more involved when it comes to my kids' parent. They principal know me by my first name. They know me when they see me walk up. They was like, "Hey, you doing, Mr. Evans?"
Same.
I'm like, you know. So that's something that we need to be more involved in. They need to see our face. So when they see our face, they was like, we know this person, we know this parent really cares about their kid, because I'm
Right.
constantly seeing their face. They're
Mm-hmm.
constantly involved in this school. So I'm just proud of my boys, because both of them are part of this, you know, student body council of both schools. And I'm gonna keep encouraging. And like you say, I do read. I doing a podcast day downstairs, so they know I'm trying to keep this knowledge going. And I have
Mm-hmm.
books, and I'm like, you got a question? And I can point to what book and say, get that book right there and just read, you know, certain chapter. It's going to tell you what you need to know. So we have to, we just got to stay engaged. Don't let this fear run us away from what we need to be as parents. Let it empower us to be even stronger parents. So
Absolutely.
this is the Three-Headed Monster podcast. Brother Tut, Brother Jerome said he had internet problems, so he had to let go. Thank you, Miss Amber, for coming back on, Miss Turner. Appreciate it. Anytime you got a topic that you want to talk about, hey, let us know. We'll address
I will.
it. So,
Thank you.
all right, Tut, we out, y'all. Three-Headed Monster. Peace.
Peace.
Stop live stream. Stop recording.